Okay, so here we go. I am very sorry for the delay. We've had a problem with my audio. Plus, I have to say, I've never used this particular software before. Anyway, here we are. We are ready to go. And for those of you, which is the majority, who don't know me, let me just briefly fill you in a little bit about my background. I have traded for 20 years and have coached for nearly 30 years now. My background originally was in banking. I started out at Commerzbank in Germany, didn't like it very much, and which is what really led me into coaching. I did work for a company in Germany which was actually state-owned, doing seminars for military personnel, mainly officers, helping them with the transition from the military into a career in civilistry. That was very interesting, and I did that for quite some time. And over the last 15 years, I've mainly coached traders. So as I said, I have traded for nearly 20 years, mainly futures and some stocks and shares, long-term as well as short-term. When I say long-term, I'm talking about a day or two. So one thing I knew was very, very quickly I discovered that the psychology, stupid as I call it, is really everything. Now, and that brings us straight medias in res to what we will be discussing today. You will have had the notification, so here it is again. And as we are already very late, we are going straight into the neuroscience of your brain. So your brain basically has got various parts. We are only concerned with two parts of the brain here at the moment, and that is the left and the right-hand side of the brain, namely the creative side versus the analytical side of the brain. Your creative mind, and that is the problem all traders are having, does not operate in the known realm. Rather, it operates in a more subtle energy realm, which is way beyond the three-dimensional realm where your logical linear mind operates. So we are really talking about the quantum field here, where everything is in flux. There is, in your three-dimensional reality, everything is fixed. Therefore, you see things as a house, this trade, the next trade. You see a loss separate from a win. There is, in the creative mind, in the quantum field, everything is one. And you no doubt have heard the connotations of unity thinking. So also the creative mind has no idea about the future. It doesn't know future nor past. There is no duality in the sense as your linear mind experiences. Therefore, when you are in the creative part of your brain, you are operating in an unlimited manner. You create always what you consciously see first in your inner mind. And if you have done some meditation training, you will know that your mind flashes up an image, even though you may not have a conscious thought in your head. That's how it operates. The mind, the subtle mind, thinks in pictures. Now, when you operate from your creative mind, because there are no limitations, there are no stops, as I call them, which your conditioned mind has. It has got lots of stops. Well, in that realm, you are literally in a realm of infinite possibilities. Anything is possible. Your creation has free realm, and there is nothing that would stop it. So in other words, if we translate this to trading, you can design your trading consciously from that perspective. And that's a very, very different way of operating than using your linear mind. So let's have a look what your mind is doing when you are in a trade. Well, of course, first of all, it's analytical, it's critical, it's linear. and it acts on survival programs. What do I mean by that? What I mean by this is that the moment you are in a trade, you are thinking how you are going to protect yourself against losses, against the adversities of the market makers, against high frequency trading, and the list is endless. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. The untrained mind continuously recreates the past by default. That's how it operates. Think of it like being on a motorway and the same cars keep going down again and again and again. So, for example, if you are in the fight and flight survival programs, you are thinking constantly, got to look out for danger, got to look out for danger, got to look out for danger. Of course, the thing is this, you are not consciously aware of what you are doing. You only wonder that after an hour, you feel as if you've been on a mental roller coaster and you are exhausted. 95% of your thoughts and actions are repeated every day. And what's more, they are on autopilot. You are operating on programs. Now, what's more, your memory isn't accurate. You just think you can recall the outcome of a trade from yesterday and how the trade evolved. That is not true. The only thing you can see and recall accurately is the outcome of any memory, the outcome of any event. This is what creates an emotional signature in your mind-body matrix. So, for example, if the last trader was a loser, well, unconsciously, you will be looking out for the next trade from that perspective. In other words, you are not coming from, the unlimited part of your mind. You are coming from limitation. So your mind unconsciously thinks like a loser. And I know that may come as a big surprise to you because you're probably going around operating as if you are here anticipating winning trades, and Mark system is very, very good at this. It will give you the winning trades. However, if you are unconsciously thinking like a loser, the most fantastic system will throw the proverbial spanner in the works. So therefore, unfortunately, there is no way around it. We have to extend our consciousness. We have to face up to the stuff in our mind, which runs, I'll say it again, largely on subconscious, and we have to bring it to the forefront of the mind. Neuroscience tells us that just one negative thought, and it takes you less than 1 second to have a negative thought, stops the blood supply to the brain. What that means is you are going straight away into fight or flight. You're either run or you start fighting. But of course, sitting in front of the computer, you can't do either. So, which adds to the frustration and the stress you experience when you're in front of the screen. Now, that I think you can see how this will impair your cognitive function when you are trading through the lens of fear instead of opportunity, of fear and survival, I should be saying. So the problem is, because you've operated like this all your life, you are running this program on autopilot. You are so immersed in it, you don't know anything else. Your creative mind, by contrast, is simply more powerful because, in a nutshell, it has no constraints. There are no programs. We've touched on this initially in my opening words. It only knows possibility. It only knows creation. It is totally limitless. There are no moralistic considerations. It doesn't think about the market makers. It doesn't think about loss. It doesn't think about risk strategies. It just sees non-dualistic opportunity. And that is what creates an incredible peace and calm in your mind when you can operate from that perspective. In other words, it's without bounds because, unlike your linear mind, there are no reference points. Your mind feels energy, the creative mind. It operates on a higher level of information because it operates on a higher frequency of the subtle energy field. And our job to operate in whole brain fashion is to get into that state. Your linear mind, by contrast, let's go back here. Your linear mind, by contrast, only sees what it knows. And what it knows, of course, can only be in the past. Now, your linear mind fears the unknown because it's got no reference point for it. It doesn't know where to go. By contrast, the creative mind thrives on the unknown. And of course, as you know, as a trader, you cannot know for certain the outcome of any trade. So you have got to be comfortable with the unknown, or otherwise you can't pull the trigger. So I think you can begin to see how creating in the subtle energy field will get you results faster. And whilst you're operating in the linear mind, which obviously looks at the dense reality, it's in the Newtonian reality. It sees a box, it sees a computer screen, it sees the your keyboard, and of course it knows how to pull the trigger. And you can train the linear mind to be really good at pulling the trigger very fast because it's a mechanical activity. However, trading is creative. It is not mechanical. Even if you're operating a sophisticated, highly optimized, automated trading system, it is still creative because behind the most optimized trading system, there are people who have created the system. There are people who are continuously watching it in order to make adjustments quickly, notice when the optimization goes out of sync a little bit and when little tweaks have got to be made. I mean, you look at Mark's system, for example. Mark has got a team of people who are looking at what needs to be done to the system to make sure that it is performing very, very well, which it is. You know, I mean, today the Nasdaq did fantastically well. So, well, you know what I'm talking about. So we've already said the limited mind sees everything as fixed. There is if you are ever seeing everything as fixed, it creates separation. By contrast, the creative mind opens you up to what we call oneness. So in order to move to true trading mastery, you have to operate in that field. It sets you free. It sets you free because your creative mind has access to a lot more information because it doesn't operate within the limitations of the limited linear mind. So, for example, your mind, your creative mind, sees your entire energetic blueprint. It knows everything about you. It doesn't see limitations. All limitations are programs. They are conditioned beliefs which you have about yourself. And I can tell you unequivocally, all these beliefs you have about yourself are lies. They are not true. You are something entirely different. And that is by way the hardest thing to believe, that you are truly limitless. Your creative mind, we've already said it, has no memory, and it only knows the present moment. Now, when you think about it, in the present moment, if you can remain in the present moment, there aren't any limitations. You are alive, you can talk, you can listen to this recording, you can see my screen, I hope, and everything is tickety-boo. So it's only when your mind wanders off to the past, to the future, looks at what might, what could have, would have, should have, when a problem arises. So unfortunately, no, for most traders, the reality is this, that they never ever learn how to operate from this field, from this non-dualistic field. So now here we have to look at 3 things which are suppressing your creative mind. And I am sure that you are probably not aware how they are affecting you. So, well, first of all, there is the belief in your identity, then there is the thinking in the past, and then there are environmental factors. And these three things together are all designed to keep you in limitation. They keep you under the control of your programs. And these programs have been there since for eons. It's the way the world is set up. They haven't suddenly sprung up because you decided to trade. The only thing that's happened when you started to trade, because the pace of trading is rather fast, obviously intraday trading we are talking about, and it starts triggering all your boxes, you know, things you didn't know you had before about hesitation, about fears of losing, identity crisis, self-esteem, blah, blah, blah. The list is sheerly endless. So I've already said, you are not who you think you are. You are actually limited, but because you are limitless, but because you are operating on programs, you are unconsciously, habitually operating from the past. You get up in the morning, what do? You switch on your iPhone or your iPad, you go to the bathroom, you make that cup of coffee, you switch on your computer, you look at CNBC, you look at the trading news, and then you look at your charts. You do all this without really thinking about your true identity that is hiding behind all these things you unconsciously, all these tasks you unconsciously perform day in, day out. I know that's tough to take, but that is the reality of what you are doing when your mind is untrained and you are basically half asleep. Now, the issue with memory is that you really believe yet that you can rely on the past. So you go, you back test, and you think how it was yesterday, and you think, oh, if I had a good trade yesterday, all I need to do is get into that feeling mode of that trade from yesterday, and I will be able to repeat it. Well, as we've already said, that is not the case, because your mind only recalls the outcome of an experience, and the outcome of the experience dictates the emotional content which gives your mind the recall to that memory. So this, of course, creates an unconscious, subconscious confirmation bias. So in other words, if you had a good trade, you might become overconfident and you're getting trigger happy, and before you know it, you are into the next trade, and presto, oh dear, it was a loss. Vice versa, if you had a losing streak or a negative trade for some reason, that is also imprinted in the emotional content of your memory, and you may find it very difficult to pull the trigger for the next trade, even though the next trade may very well be a loser. And depending on your unique programming, you may have more problems than the next person. So the thing really is, whilst you are operating from the past, you really are living a lie. Can't put it any other way. You think you are here and you are fully present. You are not. Your life, your reality is a fiction of your imagination. So in order to get out of this fix, you will have to let go of your identity. And I know from experience, having worked with many clients from all walks of life and many professional traders, letting go of your identity is scary. Well, there is a program inside you. We are coming back to the survivor things. It says, don't want to do that. Don't want to go there. You may not be aware of this, but letting go of your identity is very, very hard, because again, we are stepping into the realm of the unknown, where there is nothing fixed, where there are no reference points, and you are rudderless, or so you think. That's your linear mind that thinks it needs to know, it needs to have a straitjacket from which to operate. And up to a degree, let's make this absolutely clear, up to a degree, that straitjacket is actually very, very useful, because the straitjacket helps you to operate, pull the trigger, make flawless trade executions. We hope, if you've practiced often enough, it helps you to define with clarity what you need to see on your screen, like support, like resistance, and like a certain trade setup. For example, if you trade yourself, you look at Mark's charts, you can see without any effort exactly where the dots are, you know where the laguerre is, and you know what has to line up for you, your unique trading style, for you to be able to pull the trigger. So that can be learned, because those are mechanical things that happen in the three-dimensional Newtonian reality where we can measure things. Now, of course, also this has been set up. It's something that's been there before. The charts will be there the next day, tomorrow. When you switch your computer on, your charts will have the same indicators. It'll have the dots, you know, or not. If there is no trade, it'll have the laguerre there. It'll have everything there. That's Newtonian. That's fixed. However, all this puts you in a false sense of security, because it does not make you pull the trigger unless you have got that unlimited mindset that knows it can trade beyond survival fears, because survival fears, like all fear, stands for false evidence appearing real. So basically what we are saying here is, whilst you are operating purely from the past reference points in your life, or in your trading life, you are stopping your evolution as a trader. And you cannot move into a new identity. You'll be stuck where you are now. And of course also it is in direct contradiction to the universal laws of evolution, which are in constant creation. In other words, you are really constantly, unconsciously creating. Your consciousness in this moment is different from the consciousness a few seconds ago, but you are not aware of this. That's the whole point. It all runs on autopilot. And this is what we are having to come to terms with, bringing these unconscious programs on which we are running more to our conscious awareness. And when you can do that, that is, shall we say, the technique that allows you to move to the next level of your trading mastery. So as we said, thinking stops evolution. Time, of course, it doesn't exist in the quantum. Time is a construct. It's a mental construct humans have over eons developed, and it stops everything from happening at once. In the quantum, anything is possible. You know, there is unlimited possibility. So whilst you are operating from the linear mind, you're using your decoys. You know, and your decoys are things like, if I backtest, then I know that my system is going to work in the future. You don't know that. The only thing you know from backtesting is this, that you probably have a system that has tested very well under the backtesting conditions. That's all you know. The big difference. Markets repeat, alas, never ever in the same way. So the only real security you have is in the realm of the unknown. And I know that's very, very tough for us to get, and you may get it intellectually. It's then quite something else trading from that perspective. And you really have to become very, very mindful of this, so that you can train your mind to develop new neural pathways that let you operate in total ease in the realm of the unknown. So as we said, unless you are willing to go there, you will probably be unwittingly repeating the same things over and over in your life, as most people do. You are different purely and simply because you are a trader. You are different because you are here. You are listening to me if you are still here. And so you are willing to go beyond yourself. You are at least willing to consider the possibility that it might be a good idea to overcome yourself, because that's really what we are talking about. And when you overcome yourself, your past takes on a different perspective. Your past errors, your past, everything in your life can then attain a wisdom, which is something very, very different, which you then may be able to use and to put to good use in your trading. So now we are back to operating in that field of unlimitedness. Really, all said and done, the past should not have any room in your trading at all. You should be operating from the moment, from in the now. And that is something that can be learned. One of the things that will teach you this is developing mindfulness. And then we can go one step further, of course, and that is meditation. But we'll come to that later. Now, your environment has got a major impact on your brain, and it keeps you in survival mode. This is something where there is a lot of information on the internet about this, and there are countless peer group studies that have shown how wireless technology is not compatible with your brain. In fact, it can lead to a host of issues. I will only mention one here, and that is that continuous exposure to wireless technology to the untrained brain. And I want to absolutely emphasize this here. The untrained brain causes brain incoherence. The untrained brain, of course, is the brain that is not aware. So, and when you are exposed to toxic overload, your mind is not able to focus on the task at hand because there are distractions. It's like going through a wave of fog before it can focus on what's on the screen. And there have been images taken of electrosmog, and it looks in built up areas. If you are in a city like London or in New York or wherever, Paris, wherever you may be hailing from, you can see this. It's been photographed. And it's quite scary when you see how this electrofog really is all around us. And this is one of the reasons why it is so important that we learn techniques to calm our minds and raise our vibrational frequency, which means you are upgrading the vibrational operating system of your mind, because it creates a barrier to this constant onslaught of electromagnetic technology, which is all around us. By the way, 5G is a major challenge to our brains. It permeates absolutely everything and is everywhere, because these lateral waves are very, very powerful. They go through your body, they go through everything. Now is not the place to go into this. It's a webinar all on itself. It is a serious problem. Now, the other thing, which, whilst you may have heard about the technology side of things, you may not be aware that the energies in our environment are speeding up. This is due to the fact that our entire galaxy is shifting. It's moving into a different energetic content, into a different frequency level. And at that frequency level, we have got access to other information. Now, that is actually a very good thing for anybody who is doing work on their mind and is looking to upgrade the mind-body matrix, because this energy is very supportive of it. On the face of it, everything seems to be very chaotic, but let me assure you that underneath this chaos, there is actually order. From the higher perspective, there is no such thing as chaos. Chaos is a very necessary orderly way of dismantling something that does not serve us anymore, so that we can move on to the next higher level of our evolution. That's very important to understand. Now, in order to deal with this toxic environment we are all living in, because we are all using computers, we are all using our iPhones and whatever else of wireless technology, we need to learn to recognize when we are in total alignment with the charts, with our trading, and we need to recognize the very moment we are knocked out of alignment. And there are many triggers in our lives, and they can sort of kick in usually in the moment you least expect it. But if you are somewhat aware, you will suddenly notice you are not as happy as you were a few moments ago. So you need to recognize this. And then one thing I teach all my coaching clients, and believe you me, it's the most difficult thing to do, is whenever possible, you get up, you walk away from the screen. I know you can't do this when you are doing a presentation, as I am doing here, you know, but obviously as you learn to manage and manipulate your mental state, you will be able to deal with these adversities and triggers more and more, that you remain in control and remain in a state of, shall we say, detached serenity, where you don't have to react to events. You just wait, knowing that it's a phase and it'll be over. However, for the average person who has had no mental training, this is not the case. So therefore, I say to my guys, walk away from the screen the moment you get out of alignment. I have to tell you a quick story about this, of a professional trader who was a coaching client of mine, and he had great difficulty with this. He was aware of it. So I said to him, he had two things to do, which he found very, very difficult. For a while, he was only allowed to take one trade per day, and he had to walk away from the screen the moment he got into overwhelm. He devised a very clever thing. This guy lives in New York, and he had his car parked on a meter in front of his office. So, and he had to go and fill the meter, I don't know, every hour or every 2 hours. So he had to have a break, because he had to get into the elevator, go down and feed the meter. And it's a simple, silly technique, but believe you me, it helped him. So walking away from the screen is very, very important. Now, here is the thing. We've also already said that the universe basically is a place of evolution. Things are in continuous movement. Nothing ever stands still. Only the linear mind thinks that everything is fixed and everything stands still. So when you are locked into this belief that you can make things stand still, you are actually locking out your higher awareness. You are locking out your ability to see what is going on around you, and you are stopping yourself from being in what is commonly called the flow. The flow state is a state of permanent flux. It's not fixed. You know, the flow state allows you to change your mind in a jiff. You don't have to be in that trade, for example, if you decide for whatever reason you don't want to be in that trade anymore. However, one caveat here, of course, would be that if you have, like most people, a lot of unconscious programs running, you will be knocking yourself out of good trades, and you don't want to do that. Hence, we have certain rules and regulations. They are our crutches until we become that aware that we become aware the moment a program kicks in, and we don't have to react to it anymore. This is not, by the way, a one-day wonder. It takes practice, but believe you me, you can get there. So, of course, your untrained mind goes into shock whenever uncertainty hits. And since we are on a continuous evolutionary roller coaster, so this can happen quite often. And as I've said already, our environmental energies at the moment are such, you can see it just 2 minutes watching the news, you can see it. The old structures are falling apart. We are at the end of a very, very long, overextended and artificial cycle. And eventually, evolution will always take over. This is what we are seeing at the moment. And let me say again, far from being scary, it's a good thing. You know, it's a very, very good thing. So now we also know from evolution and from universal law that all types of cycles will repeat themselves, whether this is at a very, very low level or at a very, very high level of evolution. The same laws apply. There are cycles we go through. It's like you learn when you become aware of something new, and your intellectual mind gets stimulated. There is curiosity. You want to learn more. So you start reading a book, you do a course. Then the intellectual mind says, okay, I want to go a bit further. Then practice takes in. At this point, when you start practicing something on a regular basis, you are beginning to change neural pathways, and that's when real transformational change can happen. And as I said, these cycles are the same always. Now, universal law. Now let's look at what you really are under universal law. Your real essence is boundless. There is no limitation. Your conditioned mind is limited. This is, what we have spent the last, 40 minutes or so talking about. Your conditioned mind is limited. You are not. Your creative mind is unlimited. And your whole mind, that means when you are operating with both the left and the right side of the brain, it's infinite. Now, wouldn't that be a good place to be? I should say it is. So, okay, now let's look at why trading in the past cannot make you any money. We've already said this. It stops you from moving forward. By contrast, creativity, vision, inner independence, self-esteem, trust, create opportunity, and create inspired action. And when you combine this with a deep understanding of universal laws, and you know how to apply them, and you start applying them in your life, I guarantee you, you will make money. It cannot be any other way, because when you do this, you are aligned to your true essence. It's different for everyone. You stop looking for confirmation from CNBC, from Bloomberg, and you stop double checking everything whilst you are in a position. It's a wonderful place to be. It can be achieved, and it is something really, I'd like to see for everybody to be in that state. So hang on, I've lost my mouse. There we are. So how to trade with a creative mindset? That's, of course, the big question here. Well, first of all, you have to be willing to let go of who you think you are. You have to be willing to adopt a new identity. And one way of doing this is by practicing being in the energy of the master trader. It is something which is in some of the audios of my master Your Trading Mind course. Actually, you practice being in the energy, because that practice creates new neural pathways. This is what we are all about here. We want to build new neural connections in the brain. And the more you can do this and act in the moment, the more you will relinquish the past, and the old neural pathways, they will die down. It's a little bit like, imagine you are walking down a grassy road, and where everybody walks their dog, that's where the grass won't grow. Imagine everybody stopped walking their dog down that area. Soon the grass would grow back. The mind works in exactly the same way. Now, developing a meditative mindset, meaning that you trade in a place where you are in, shall we say, in a perpetual state of active mindfulness and active meditation. That is different from having mystical experiences. It is about being totally detached, being in the waking theta brainwave whilst you are acting. In this place, you are suspending to a large degree duality. You are in a place of heightened alertness. It's a wonderful place to be, and you can practice to get there. I teach my coaching clients how to do this. It's not a one-day wonder, but believe you me, you can learn to do it, and it's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing to be able to do. In meditation, with a regular and the right kind of meditation practice, you learn to move energy consciously in your body as well as in your mind. It's a full mind-body practice. And when you raise your vibrational energy, you practice your inner vision. The two actually go hand in glove. Your self-esteem begins to rise because you begin to see yourself not from your conditioned perspective and your limited perspective. You see yourself from an entirely different vantage point. So practice your inner vision and self-love. This is really what I'm saying here. Learning to face your fears is important, because whilst you have got fears running in the background, you cannot be in love and in the higher realm of your existence. So really practice trading from the love energy, because the love energy is calm, it's order. So becoming aware of what you're thinking is one of the strategies that will make you money. Walk away from the screen the moment old survivor programs kick in. Above all, know that it is not about mastering your trading first and foremost. It's about mastering you. Without being able to master you, no trading strategy will get you there. I can guarantee you that much. So in this context, it's important that you know why you trade. And if your answer is you just trade to make money, well, I suggest you look for another job, basically, because there are plenty of other things you can do to make money. Trading isn't easy, that's for sure. Now, in order to get the skills, of course, you have to do the drills, because the mind forgets everything is exposed to. If you have watched this presentation so far and then walk away, never look at it again, by tomorrow evening you will have forgotten all about it. However, if you decide, and I encourage you to do this, to go back and watch the presentation again, the whole information will go deeper. So the Master Your Trading Mind online trading psychology course, which I have devised, it's completely rewritten from an old course I did before, gives you practical hands-on strategies that will train your mind on a daily basis. And a lot of these strategies are designed to use while you trade. That's very, very important, so that you can do it whilst you are sitting in front of your screen. There are a lot of audios that help you. You can have them running in the background whilst you are trading. That's why I have outlaid this course in that way. And of course, the other thing I would invite you to consider is to become a member of the Transformational Guided Meditations Academy for Traders. This is something I set up about 18 months ago now. You can't believe it's nearly 18 months ago. And it's a group of traders. I did it originally for a group of professional traders, and now that we have got traders from all walks of life, and we meditate every 2 weeks together. And the meditations last for half an hour. Before we get into the meditation, I do an introductory talk, and that leads us into the meditation. And I have had very, very positive feedback from this, and it's a thoroughly enjoyable thing to do. So, okay, and here I've got up the Master Your Trading Mind course. There is a special offer here. I think Right Line Trading will put the offer properly on your screen with links in a moment here. So okay, here it sums up. The course comes in 3 parts. I'll just run you through it. The part 1 basically is delivered in a PDF format, and they are written tutorials. An important thing is that you understand how universal law works, how it pertains to your trading, because that knowledge will help you to overcome resistance and become ready to experience something new in the way you trade. In other words, it'll open up your consciousness to something new and operate in a different way of being. The second part is a self-assessment questionnaire. It's quite detailed. There are over 100 questions, and if you take the time, it does take some time to go through that questionnaire. It'll help you greatly to see your strengths and where your weaknesses are. So I think the course is worth just the self-assessment questionnaire alone. So, and then part 3 contains a detailed description of a strategy to train your trading mind. And it's all about how you talk to yourself, how you are communicating with yourself, how you are languaging with yourself, your self-talk, the questions you ask yourself, the things, the statements you make to yourself. Oh, this is no good. Oh God, we are so late starting this webinar. So a bunch of idiots are running this operation. Blah 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 blah. I'm sure you are getting the picture here. So that's very good, and that's your primer for part 3, which is I put part 2 actually. Part 2 also consists these audios which are designed, as I said at the beginning of the when we talked about the special offer. The audios are designed to be used when you are trading. And as such, they are very, very powerful, because you get to put into practice what you have read in part 1 and what you've learned about yourself in the assessment questionnaire. And then the whole thing rounds up with a 1-hour consultation with me, which you can take. I encourage people to take it actually once they have done the self-assessment course, because you will have read quite a bit about the universal law and how to apply it in your trading. And the consultation will give you a primer to make the most out of the audios that follow. So in that sense, I think you're going to get tremendous value out of this, and it will really, really help you with your trading. And then we have, oh, by the way, this is what's covered in the Master Your Trading Mind course. We are looking at how your mind sees the charts, how to get beyond your trading fears, the psychology of waiting for trades, very, very important. I mean, when you're looking at Mark's system, which is excellent, but you have to be patient at times. And you have to be willing to sit there and not take a trade and wait for the very best setups only, because that is the thing that preserves your trading capital and, above all, your psychological capital. And by the way, Mark's system, I think, particularly for beginning traders, is fantastic, because it's got a fixed rule set, and the way I use it, I have got a larger time frame candlestick chart where I do a certain type of analysis with, which I always run next to it, because it gives me confidence to take the trades I want to take, and the two together work really well. So I really think Mark's system, if you harness your psychology, you will be able to make money trading. So perfectionism, well, there is no such thing. Either we are all perfect, or we are all in perfect imperfection. Dissolving self-doubt, embracing change, discussed this already, very important. Good audio to listen if you have got problems with that. Assessing your risk. Hey, it's not about the Sharpe ratio alone. It's about a lot more, a great deal more than that. Then we're going to have a bit of fun seeing how you see yourself as you are now in a new trading mind and limitless. Then we talk about the discipline, spirituality, and trading confidence. I've touched a little bit on this in the presentation today. Then there is an exercise visualizing the perfect trade. Very, very powerful. And there is a lot more, and there will be a surprise. Well, it's a surprise. Well, you will find out, when you get the course. The Meditation Academy is a special offer here for 4 months for the price of 3 months, basically. So I've already explained to you how it works. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the presentation so far. Here is some details of mine you can look at. And now, right, we need to see, go to messages. I think I'm going to have to stop the screen share now. I've not used this before here, so right. Okay, we'll stop the screen sharing at this moment, and I think RLT will put in the links now, so that you can well, maybe I shouldn't stop the screen sharing. Let's see what happens here for a moment. So we'll go here. So nope, I have to stop that now. Right. Sorry about this. I had to stop this. I just need to look here. What we have got. So, okay, I think Mark has already put everything in the offer here. So now let's go to the questions. So let's see. I need to just figure out how we open the questions up here. So how do we do that? Well, I see the questions, but I cannot open them. Just bear with me a moment here. Okay, Mark is just very kindly doing it for me. So just please be patient with me whilst I get the question up so that I can see them. This is really odd. So, right. So right, I can still not see the questions here. Right, I don't understand this, because that was the one thing I did have up before, actually, when nothing else was working. I could see a large screen with questions. Now, actually, what I'm going to do, see if that works. Ah, right. Okay, just bear with me. I think Mark or Rory are going to fix this for me. I just had a little sign saying, "Can I take control?" So, just please bear with me just for a second here. Let's see. Wait and see what happens here. No, we can't. So I wonder, this is an experiment, guys. There is Mark. I see Mark's. Fantastic. Wonderful. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark. So, right, okay. So, okay, first of all, yes, the webinar is recorded, so you will be receiving the recording of this webinar later on. Okay, so what is my definition of mind? Now, that's a very interesting and poignant question. The mind is basically non-local. It's not something that is fixed in your head. The mind is, we alluded to the idea of being limitless. The mind is omnipresence. I talked about the whole brain situation, and when you are in whole brain modus operandi, you have access to the most amazing things. This, incidentally, is something that meditation will give you. Practice with meditation. Again, I have to keep saying this because I don't want you to get the wrong idea here that some of these concepts we have been discussing here are one-day wonders. There is no such thing. But if you keep meditating, by the way, I've meditated for 20 years, I can tell you amazing things will happen in meditation. And if you do it correctly, you learn very quickly to access areas with your mind, and that is, it's not a mental thing, it's a mind thing, it's an energy thing that goes out there, and it receives information from the ether, call it ether, from the field, whatever, and then computes it in such a way to your operating system, and that's in your brain, so that you can make something of that information. So the mind, in summing up, is non-local, and it always is limitless, and it is not bound by condition. How do I say Deepak Chopra in German? I love Deepak Chopra. I started my journey with Deepak Chopra many years ago. I met him in a seminar in London, and I sat actually in the second row. And I shall never forget this. This is nearly 20 years ago, and the energy of this guy was amazing. And then later on, I was standing right next to him. His energy field was quite extraordinary. Yep, quite something. So what percent of my students become profitable? My coaching students, well, all of them. I've had one guy who decided to quit after 3 months or so, and decided it was all too much hard work, because in order to get the skills you have to do the drills. I pride myself that my students stay with me. They like what I do. I love working with them, and I have not had a failure yet, other than this one guy who just decided, okay, it wasn't for him. And that is one of the reasons why I never say to anybody, you have to do at least 6 months or a year or whatever. It doesn't work like this. I want everybody to be happy, because that way you get results. Right, so what else have we got here? Let me just scroll down further. Now, of course, how is this like Zen? Now, Zen, of course, is a practice of Buddhism. Now, for example, one of the things I have learned was, I've studied with Genpo Roshi some years ago, when Genpo Roshi, that was before he fell from grace, and he was the highest ranking Zen master outside of Japan. It's a very now, the actual study of Zen can be very tough. It's very, very strict, and there is a hierarchy in it, which is perhaps, I would say, almost, from my perspective, as I see it today, almost a little bit outdated. You know, but that's another story. So, you know, really, when you say, how is this like Zen, I think you are probably talking about how do we trade like Zen. I prefer to use the word whole brain. We are trading from a whole brain perspective, where the aim is, the overarching aim is to overcome the dualistic, three-dimensional reality of the linear mind. Yes, absolutely. It can, the techniques apply to mastering other obstacles. Now, there is a thing called transference in psychology. And transference means that you have one behavior in trading, for example, you will repeat a behavior in a similar form in other areas of your life. Therefore, if you are able to correct a certain behavior, or have, shall we say, a major lucida intervalla over something, it will permeate not just your trading, it is all encompassing. It will absolutely affect your entire life. I mean, that's you know, the beauty of this work, really, because it's not just about trading. Trading, at the end of the day, guys, don't forget, it is just the way in which we have chosen to express ourselves. It's a form of growth, it's a form of learning about ourselves, and it's a form, ultimately, if you like, of learning about how creation works, how the universe works. Do I find well, if my name were Joe Dispenza or somebody like this, I probably would be making huge amounts of making money teaching. Well, actually, I have to say, I trade for you know, on other companies, so it's I make my money mainly on trading, but I have to say I love working with other people, because sitting in front of the screen all day is not my cup of tea. So, but ultimately, I mean, if you trade right and with the right amount of capital, of course, you can make a lot of money. But as I said, it's, to me, it's not about the money side of things. It is about self-fulfillment, which is something very, very different. And the self-fulfillment side of things is about creating better lives for people. And that is something that is very, very close to my heart. My life hasn't been easy. I wasn't born a master trader. I have got all the T-shirts and all the books, I can assure you. If there was a mistake in trading that could have been made, inadvertently, I will have made it somewhere along the path. And I have lost a ton of money in my early trading days, and that was mainly not so much because I was totally stupid, but I was following the advice of other people rather than following my own timid self. And I have to say, I'm a timid trader. You know, I am not out there banging away. I am not trigger happy. I take very, very few trades, and I am very happy. I can sit and wait for my setups 2 or 3 hours if need be. If I know I can max out on a trade, I sit and wait. Right. So what have we got here? No, okay. The price for the course is $399, and the trading, the Transformational Meditation Academy is $290 for 4 months. Upsales, don't know. Very good session. Thank you very much. Yes, it is being taped. We've already said that. So what else? Can I recommend a good meditation book? Well, actually, I suggest you read Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and You Are the Placebo. That would be a very, very good book to start. I have trained with Dr. Joe. In fact, I'm off to a training with Dr. Joe next week. So I mean, he is in my book. I know these things are always subjective, of course, and also don't forget there are different types of meditation. But he is fantastic with his research in the way he explains the neuroscience. He has done the most extensive neuroscience on the brain in meditation. I would say, to my mind, he is the best out there, and it's certainly something I think you would find very interesting to read. Would I consider that the mind is the action of consciousness upon the brain? I'm not quite sure that I understand the question exactly here. What I would say, though, the mind and consciousness are very inextricably linked. As I've said already, the mind is non-local. Consciousness is non-local. It's a fallacy, and science knows this today. The mind is not in the brain. You know, it's not in your head. It's non-local. And that's why we are able, for example, in the Meditation Academy, I can tune into the energy of the guys who are meditating with me. And when we do the Meditation Academy, I don't know what I'm going to meditate on when we start, but I can feel the energy, and I know from feedback from the people who are in the meditation class, because you can feel the energy moving. That's a kinesthetic thing, of course. It's it's also a receiving of energy, because we can feel it going through the different body parts, and I know other people are feeling it exactly the same. As I've had obviously plenty of feedback from this. Likewise, the same I get in consultation when I work with clients. The linear mind listens and sees what's there in 3D form. However, the higher mind, from a higher perspective, if you like, understands subtle energy. So when I work with a client and a client says to me, okay, I am very happy today, I can go and say, no, I know you are not. So how can I say this? Because I can tune into the energy field. I know when there are incongruences that need working at. So I can lead the client into sort of going into that area. So it's my energy, if you like, the higher energy. affecting him through the mind, through consciousness. Call it what you like. That's how it works in the quantum field. And we all are designed to operate like this. We are not designed to just operate the three-dimensional, a Newtonian world where everything is measurable physically. There is an entirely different world out there. No, I'm definitely not an atheist, because I do believe in the power of creation. So, and why do I believe in this? Because I know that there is something out there that is benign, that is all-encompassing, and that is observing me. It's intelligent. It is reacting to me when I ask for a connection, when I ask to be guided in a certain direction, and I raise my vibrational energy high enough to make that connection. There is something there in the ether, in the field. You may call it what you like. I prefer the word creator. But of course, we are all creators, because we are created through this universal force of which we are it. And that is what makes us whole, that we are able to tune into this with practice. So no, I'm definitely not an atheist. Is the Schumann resonance? Oh, yes, yes. Now the Schumann resonance has been changing for quite a number of years. And it has been, last year we've had measurements up to 100, very, very, very briefly. The Schumann resonance originally is at 7.83, and then of course you have the harmonics thereof. And this is what I alluded to early on when I was talking about the entire galaxy changing its energetic frequency, and it's shifting the informational field from which we are receiving and in which we are having to learn to operate is shifting. So yes, it's very much an ongoing process at the moment, and will continue to go on for the foreseeable future. Yeah, nothing unreal exists. Yeah, that is so true. Thank you. Do I guarantee? No, I don't guarantee anything, because I cannot make you do anything you are not ready to do. So ultimately, there are no guarantees in life. No, actually, there is no such thing as one type of trading being particularly effective. It all depends, of course, on your trading personality, and also that changes. Now, as I've said early on, I have traded for 20 years. I have scalped. I've learned to scalp in the early days. I still scalp today. Sometimes I trade longer term. I do swing trades, and it changes with the market situation. It changes with your psychological makeup. True mastery comes from being able to tune into day trading, into scalping, into, shall we say, investing, if you like. Really, you ought to be able to be fluent in all. That is true mastery at the end of the day. And that is something that, of course, comes with experience. I mean, quite often, for example, one of my trading strategies is I've got a system which is very, very, very quick. And it's a form of Uni, Renko, and Heikin-Ashin bars, right? And what we do, we look for very short-term entries with a very, very tight stop. The stops can be something like on crude, you can sometimes get in with an 8-tick stop. Now, I look for setups where I know the trade is a scalp, but according to my methodology, I want to see that I can max out on this trade, because I'm not interested in taking 5, 6, 7, 8 trades a day. My schedule doesn't allow it. So I may only take perhaps two trades, in a day. And, there are often days when I don't trade. If I don't like what I see and it doesn't fill my specific requirements, I don't trade. But I always go to the desk with the idea, if I can start out with a scalp and let the scalp grow into a longer term trade, fantastic. Those to me are, the best trades to have. They don't come around that often, but they are there. That's why I'm saying you need to be able to scalp, you need to be able to swing trade and understand when you become an investor. Hi, Torsten. Thank you for your kind words. Are the magnetic poles going to reverse? Well, there is scientific evidence that this is the case. I mean, look at it like this. We have a situation where we've had in the last, normally, if any of you are flyers, fly aeroplanes, you'll know what I'm talking about. The runways have to be repainted every 10 to 15 years because the gyros don't work after that, because the magnetic meridians have moved. We've had in the last few years the magnetic field has moved that much that within, in the next year or so, all major airports have to have all their navigation systems repainted. So the magnetics are moving much, much faster, and that is in line. I'm not a scientist, but it's certainly in line with my studies and everything I have learned. So well, thank you, Philip. Thank you, David, for your kind words. Yes, send me an email via, you got my email in the form. I'd love to set up a chat with you anytime. Well, okay, so how does the physical mind operate with the brain? Think of it a little bit like a computer. Your computer has got a hard drive. It's a very, very physical, here comes the word again, Newtonian thing. That what the computer gives out, and you got your keyboard, you got your computer, your hard drive that enables you to use the keyboard, I think. Well, I think you get the gist what I'm trying to say here. But once you press the keyboard and something appears and you do it right, you can draw pictures, you put up charts, you can draw lines, you can do anything. This is the non-local thing. There is something in there, an operating mechanism that sends a signal that makes things move. And so it is with the brain. The physical brain is, shall we say, the hard drive that makes the different parts of the brain, which is the mind if it's working properly, the neurons fire off together. And in a whole brain, the frequency and there is a certain order in which the neurons fire off in a whole brain when the brain is working properly. When the brain is working unilaterally, i.e. you're only using or if you're only using the linear mind, that sequence is out of sync. And that is when you get brain fog and you get tired and you get antsy and nervous, get into fight or flight. Vice versa, if you are only operating in the creative mind, which you can do in the higher realms of meditation, recommended, fantastic, and you access new realms of yourself, but it's not recommended for trading, of course. Here you use your creative mind together with your linear mind. We discussed early on, the linear mind, of course, has got very, very valuable assets, you know, like you have to press the button on your keyboard in order to enter a trade. So the linear mind does that. It's a very, very physical thing. But to operate at your highest, at your best, and fulfill your full potential, you have to learn to go beyond the limited mind, and you have to learn to operate automatically with your creative mind when that dominantly when that is required, while seamlessly switching over to the more physical, mechanical side of the linear mind when that is required. For example, seamless trade execution. You don't want to find yourself being away with the proverbial fairies, for the want of a better word, you know, entering trade so late because you're so relaxed, you know, that price has sort of run away 10 ticks before you are there. So I hope that has answered that. Do I have an opinion on LSD? No, I have never done it. So, well, I can only say one thing. I am not a great friend of any recreational drugs. And I know there is a guy, Graham Hancock. He has written a book about this, how you can use recreational drugs systematically to expand your consciousness. Well, I have to say, it's just not in my field of vision. It's not necessary. Okay, you know, if I want to relax, I drink a gin and tonic or a glass of champagne. You know, that's really as far as it goes. I personally feel you don't need these things. It really is totally unnecessary. Yes, absolutely. When you are in resonance, well, meditation raises your frequency if it's done correctly. That's exactly what it's all about. Okay, so I think we have done all the questions. Thank you very much for these very interesting questions you have all asked, and also thank you very much for being patient with me, being a total technophobe, and not, hence we were sort of a little bit late starting this webinar. And of course, a big thank you to Mark and Rory for helping, well, first of all, organizing it all and helping us to make all this possible. So hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed presenting this webinar.